Throughout his nearly 20-year NASCAR career, JJ Yeley has driven for a wide range of team owners, ranging from Joe Gibbs to John Cohen. However, what if I told you that in a strange turn of events, he got to race for debatably the most recognized team owner in NASCAR history? This is when JJ Yeley drove for Richard Petty. 2010 marked the NASCAR return for JJ Yeley after breaking 3 vertebrae in a sprint car crash the previous year. Or according to Fox Sports, winning the F1 championship? His only non-Cup start would come in the Truck Series, driving for the new Daisy Ramirez Motorsports at the Daytona season opener. The same race that also marked the beginning of one of the most dominant truck teams in history, Jennifer Jo Cobb Motorsports. Oh, and also Kyle Busch Motorsports, but I'm not sure they accomplished much. Despite starting last, JJ was able to avoid the chaos to pick up a top 10 finish, which was quite impressive for a startup team. After going back into obscurity, JJ Yeley's Cup Series return would come in May of that year, after Whitney Motorsports parted ways with their original driver, Terry Cook. Unfortunately for JJ Yeley fans, whilst he'd have some decent qualifying runs, including a 25th starting spot at Dover, most of his runs would end in start and parks. His only race highlights would include a lead lap finish at Sonoma, leading a lap under yellow at Pocono, and a top 20 finish at Daytona. Unfortunately, after this run, JJ Yeley had a streak of 5 DNQs in 6 races and was eventually released for Michael McDowell. After this, JJ Yeley was then picked up by Tommy Baldwin Racing, a team whom earlier in the year ran this monstrosity of a scheme. Driving the team's flagship 36 entry, all of JJ's runs were start and parks, with his best finish being only a 40th place at Atlanta. So overall, there wasn't much to really write home about for Mr. Yeley here. That was until we got to Charlotte. At the 2010 Bank of America 500, JJ Yeley was once again entered in the TBR 36. Due to their low position in owner points, they were 1 of 14 go or go homers. So it was definitely going to be an interesting qualifying. In qualifying, JJ Yeley was just able to sneak into the field with a 40th place run, beating out the first DNQ, Joe Nemechek, by just over 0.02 of a second. Whilst I'm sure they would have liked to make it by a bigger margin, they still made the race, and that's all that mattered. Just a quick FYI here, unfortunately no footage of the full race currently exists. And this also includes the new NASCAR Classics website, so it is possible that I might miss something here, and so if I do, I apologize. Anyway, on to the race. In the early stages of the race, the 36 team and fellow Starton Parks, the 09, that was driven by Landon Castle, the 46, was driven by Mark McDowell, who actually led the field momentarily after an early yellow, and the 64, that was driven by Jeff Green, would play a cat and mouse game pretty much by going to the garage for a few laps before re-entering the race. After completing 73 laps, JJ Yeley eventually parked his car and was credited out due to ignition issues. After being overtaken by the 21 of Bill Elliott and the 39 of Ryan Newman, who each had issues earlier in the race. JJ Yeley was then dropped to 43rd. Presumably, both driver and team then thought their day was done, and they were likely getting packed up for the next weekend at Martinsville. However, fate had other ideas. On lap 125, Casey Kane, who was struggling with brake issues, broke loose out of turn 4 and collected Sam Hornish Jr. on the front stretch. While Sam's car was totaled, Casey was able to take his car to the garage to see if it was possible to return to the race. Whilst the team was in the process of repairing the car, Casey began to feel ill and refused to return to the car. Rather than throw in the towel, Richard Petty Motorsports went on the search for a driver to finish out the race. The driver they chose? You guessed it, JJ Yeley. Which was great, as both drivers had the same height, so they didn't have to waste time getting their car set up to JJ's size. On lap 285, the car was finally repaired and was able to return to the track. This was mentioned on the broadcast, however I haven't been able to recover it. Despite being over 100 laps down, JJ Yeley was able to get the 9 past the 77 and 46 and got within 3 laps of passing 37th place Patrick Carpentier. However, since Casey Kane started the race, he was the one who was credited with the 38th place finish. Sadly for JJ Yeley fans, as of this recording, this is the closest he'd get to a top tier ride, as he was overlooked when Casey Kane and RPM separated a few days later, with Arik Almirola instead being picked for the ride. So that concludes the story of JJ Yeley driving for Richard Petty Motorsports. I assure you, this is just the tip of the iceberg of JJ Yeley's NASCAR career. I do have an idea of doing a more in-depth look at JJ's career, so if you'd like to see that, comment down below and I'll try to get it done before the end of the year. Like, share and subscribe. I am aiming to get to 50 subs by the end of the week. If this can be done, I will do a special live stream in conjunction with this weekend's Bathurst 1000. If not, I've been the Shardy Guy. Thank you all for watching. Catch you all in the next one.